This week in PlayStation, we're talking about our favorite handheld memory, PlayStation trophies on the PC, and our Stellar Blade review. We'll have all this and more because this is PS I Love You XOXO. Welcome to PS I Love You XOXO, your weekly PlayStation conversation. That's Blessing, that's Andy, I'm Greg, and if you love what we do, you should support us with a Kinda Funny membership. You, of course, get each and every episode of this show and all our shows ad-free. You can usually watch us record this show and all the afternoon podcasts live as we record them, and of course, you get the daily multimedia experience known as Gregway. If you got no bucks tossed away, no big deal. PS I Love You XOXO posts for free on YouTube, on podcast services, without the exclusive content like, subscribe, share. Thank you to our Patreon producers Delaney Twining, Kieran Hovasapian, and Carl Jacobs. Today we're brought to you by the Kinda Funny membership, but we'll tell you about that later. For now, let's start with a PSN message from Andy.
Hey, Greg.
Your rare PS I Love You appearance. I like it.
Smells good in here.
It does smell good.
With your Patreon dollars, we can help Greg's throat.
I don't think you can.
Really?
I think this is what it is. What it is. We got to ride this one out. I saw the doctor. I gave him the copay. I guess I'm better than I was then. I mean,
you tell him about Patreon?
No, I should try to get it back. You know what I mean? My doctor's been weird because he used to be. He was on the same road as the old studio.
Oh,
so he'd always like, oh yeah, you do the podcast, you do the thing. Yeah. He's like, I'm like, yeah, maybe I should come by. I'm like, yeah, come by anytime you want. Never did. You know what I mean?
How random would that be? We're just sitting in the office, and like Greg's doctor walks in. He's still in like his doctor gear.
My general practitioner.
HIPAA violation. Tell us all about him.
It's called my cancer in 2012. He's been with me ever since.
The stethoscope's still around his neck.
Still wearing the mask and the gloves.
Like, who are you? He's like, I'm Greg's doctor. It's like, okay.
Can I toss these gloves in here? Like, oh no.
It's not because it's like we're not covered in blood. It's not like we're that close. Where he's like, oh, I've listened to the show or something like that. Like he just knows that we have a studio. Weird. What are you gonna do? You know?
Would you want your doctor to listen to the show?
I don't give a shit.
I feel like it'd be too much of an invasion of privacy.
I mean, at this point, like the things I talk about on these shows and the people who listen, it's all
gonna help him give a better diagnosis.
The mental illness.
Yeah, you know what I mean? There's a lot wrong with you.
Your
Not just
doctor
your
talks about you. I know that's like against the
what?
law. You think your doctor talks about you?
Like with his family?
I know it's against the law, but I still I'm always reminded of the Curb Your Enthusiasm episode where Larry David's dentist tells everybody that he has really bad cavities, and Larry David, and the word gets around back to Larry. He's like, "What the fuck? Were you telling people about my teeth?" You know.
Literally last week, I made an appointment with a dentist that's like somebody who I know, like somebody that's like in our circles.
Same.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is my first time getting an appointment with them because I've heard good things, and I'm like,
you haven't talked to Andy.
Yeah, I mean, I've like,
I have great things to say about our current dentist.
Last time you went, I remember was like you didn't get the personal touch. I remember your story.
Do you have the same dentist as Andy?
No, but I know Andy's dentist.
The personal touch.
Unless I'm thinking of maybe it was Blessing. Somebody went to the dentist that everybody goes to and was like, we know each other, but like they weren't getting like you act like you know me.
Oh, right. Yeah.
See? Okay.
Gotcha.
Is it this person?
Gotcha. Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's where I'm going.
Okay.
Well, apparently that dentist is going to act like they don't know who you are, so.
That's the reason why I'm going with them is because I want the personal touch. So are you telling me that there's
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. If I went to that dentist that we all know so well, I'd be like jokester about it. You know what I mean? Like they come in and I put a bunch of Pop Rocks in my mouth. You know what I mean?
My fear...
Put a gremlin in there.
Because I've not been to the dentist...
Play pranks.
Yeah, you know I can't resist.
I've not been to a dentist in a little bit longer than I should have.
Yeah, I know, me too. And
so I'm like, am I going to go to them? And they're like, yo, what the fuck? And then they go home and they talk to their family about it. And then it spreads throughout the games that I have bad teeth.
You're listening to some Jeff Grubb podcast. Suddenly it comes up. He's like, how does Jeff Grubb know?
Yeah, it's like, why does he know that I got a crown?
Spreads like gingivitis.
Exactly.
Gum disease.
Let's spread the PSN message from you. Remember, you can write in to be part of the show with a thought starter over at kindafunny.com/PSILY, just like Tony did. Tony wrote in and said, what is your best handheld gaming memory? Or what is the strangest place you have ever played a game?
Well, since we're on a PlayStation podcast.
Thank you very much for reading between the lines on that one.
My best handheld memory was winning a PlayStation Vita from Gio Corsi and Greg Miller at the PSX on stage thing. It was mainly Gio Corsi handing out little prizes to people in the crowd, and I won my blue PS Vita, which I played for
the
a decent amount.
2015 one here in SF.
Sure was.
That was the first time you and I met.
And I still have the Vita.
Wow.
I still have it.
Still have the Vita. Wow. Look at that.
I need to like get cool ROMs on it.
Okay.
You know,
That's not allowed.
Yeah, no, that's allegedly. You wouldn't do that. Don't do that.
I would
You
never
have a
do that.
Steam Deck,
But
though.
also, allegedly, can you do that? You can get ROMs on that?
Oh, you can like, yeah.
Is it easy?
It's like I forget the term they use, like homebrew or farm to table or something like that.
Yeah.
Farm to
I might have
table,
done that to my
sure,
Nintendo
sure.
Wii back in the day. I was playing everything.
It's a cool little freaking device, though. I tell you what.
No, the Vita's
Sony makes
so
the best looking
sexy,
hardware.
dude.
Sony
The
makes the
Vita's
best
so
looking
sexy.
hardware. What about you, Bless?
I mean, for me, it's also the Vita, but specifically, it was playing the Vita every day on the bus on the way to and from work when I had just freshly moved to Seattle, and like I got Persona 4 Golden. I think I've told the story before of like why I love Persona 4 Golden so much.
Yeah.
I was new in a city and like didn't know anybody, and I had this long commute, and so I'm like on the bus every day just playing hella Persona 4 Golden, and Persona 4 being this game about a dude who's new to a city and like making friends and all that stuff. I was like, oh cool, I get to like learn about Chie and Yukiko and all these.
I get to make friends here rather than in real life.
Then in real life,
Yeah.
and then eventually I made friends in real life. But yeah, for me that was like such a special experience that I still look back on of like, oh man, that was really cool.
For me, it'll always be Peace Walker, PSP. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different parts of that. Of just like, you know, obviously at the time I was in charge of the PlayStation or the PSP channel at IGN. You know, so I remember then when the demo dropped at TGS and I was at TGS, and so like not only did we broker a deal where we were like the American way to get it. So I had like a PSP page up on IGN that you could go to get the demo and download it. It was then also that I was playing it and recording footage on the show floor of TGS, like at the IGN booth. So people would just come up and watch me play this thing. And then you jump to, I think it was one of my favorite review events of all time, where it was.
Wait, who would watch you play? Like
consumers?
coworkers? Oh.
Consumers just walking around the TGS show floor would come to the IGN booth and then see some guy playing Peace Walker. Just stop
Was it
and watch.
displayed up somewhere?
Yeah.
Or what? Oh,
well,
that's cool.
I was playing on the PSP and then it was routed out to the giant dumb
Little
box
video
you
out
had
thing.
to do it, and then it was routed up to the TV so they can make sure it was coming through fine on the
That's
record.
awesome.
Yeah. And then the review event was always one of my favorite ones because it was so stupid and simple, where it was like, rather than give us the UMDs, Konami had us all go to, they put people up, but we were local, go to this hotel in San Francisco for 2 days. And it would be like, we would come and it was just, they took over a ballroom and there was all these tables in a giant U with PSPs there. And we would sit there and play Peace Walker
That's
for
sick.
9 hours a day. And then people would go home. They're like, all right, cool, whatever. This is what it is.
What a full court heave, by the way, from Sony to call them Universal Media Discs.
They'll play anything.
And
they're
fucking-
universal. They'll play anything.
Nobody else ever adopted it. You know, USB was like a big one too, but everybody used USB, right?
Yeah, totally.
That became the standard. UMD is not quite.
No,
you
they
know.
never took off the way they think they expected. them.
You can't jam a UMD inside of a microwave or something
What
like
does
that.
the
you know
USB
what
stand for?
I mean? Universal Serial Bus.
Gotcha.
Oh
Nice.
yeah, no, you're right.
You thought you had him. He got you dead to rights.
No, I was just here. I didn't know that there was a universal.
You know what USB-C stands for with a C?
The Universal Serial Bus.
Crab apple.
Because what was it? Crab
apple. No, I'm kidding.
He had you. He had you.
I got you.
I was like, yeah, absolutely no way you just came up with that.
And then I smuggled my save out. That was illegal. But, like, I was like, I had done the memory card switch when I got there, so I put my own memory card in and then took it out.
so
of it.
cool.
I was on top of it.
That's so covert.
I wasn't going to give up 2 days of work on this game.
That
or
was a
whatever.
portable op right there.
It was.
Whoa.
It was.
Whoa.
Dun, 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 dun. And then playing at the bar with people, like being a complete psychopath, stuff I'd never really done as an adult with a portable game. It was good times.
Not to go outside the PlayStation sphere. Sorry, PlayStation gamers.
Cheers.
But like putting my Game Boy in a Ziploc bag and playing in the shower because I was just so addicted to Pokemon.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
I would do that all the time. Play at church.
Oh yeah.
You know, you have that shit in your pocket. Hopefully your parents don't see you. I'm going to go to the restroom real quick, man. I'm just
Yeah.
catching mons,
Catching
man.
Pokemon.
Addicted.
Damn, that's cool.
Addicted. Yeah. Jesus Christ watching over me being like, nah, it's a fucking Raticate. You know?
Why are you
gotta
using an
evolve.
Ultra Ball? Oh, fucking Diglett. Let's move on to topic of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, it's finally happening. The Stellar Blade review embargo is up. Of course, this game from Shift Up, published by Sony. Hey, PlayStation, thanks for sending us review copies. Of course, FTC, we didn't steal them from a truck. Out October 26th. It has turned quite a few heads on the internet.
April 26th?
April, what did I say, August?
October.
I'm way off.
That's soon, though.
I was thinking about it. I was thinking about the PlayStation 2 release date. You know what I mean? October.
Halloween.
April 26th. And of course, a lot of people have been looking forward to it. A lot of people played that demo. Blessing, Andy, you are both excited to some degree. Blessing, how much of it have you played?
I have finished it.
Ooh,
Yeah,
what was
played
the
about
hour?
27 hours.
Okay.
And I could have played more.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of side content in the game, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, it was 27 hours doing a moderate amount of the side content.
Okay. Andy, how much have you played?
0.
You played a lot of the beta though, right? Or the demo.
Oh yeah, like I played the demo through where I was like, all right, well, if you take off her costume, the costume is the shield. So let me play through the demo, without the shield and kind of challenge myself more. I played like a lot of the video game and really, really enjoyed myself, and I'm looking forward to the final product.
Excellent. Blessing, if people don't know, what is Stellar Blade?
Stellar Blade is a new game from Shift Up, which is a new Korean studio. The game is being published by PlayStation as a PlayStation Studios game. But the, I guess, most straightforward way to describe it is your typical straightforward action RPG that takes some influence from like From Software and Soulsy type games, specifically something like Sekiro, but then also takes a lot of influence from a Nier Automata specifically to kind of become its own thing, its own new IP.
Now that you've finished it, 28 hours in, where are you on the Kind of Funny scale?
On the scale, I am at around a 4 out of 5.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'll give it. I think this game is really, really good and very fun. There are so many good things I can say about it. Specifically, it is very refined and it knows what it wants to be and nails exactly what it wants to be so well. The combat system is really fun. One of the main things, I already mentioned how, it is kind of like a Nier meets some Soulsy elements, right? The parry is straight out of a Sekiro, right? Where it is, you are parrying multiple hits in a row from enemies. The more you parry, the more you might like build up that stagger. But then also you build up your own meter, which is called beta, and you have these beta abilities that you can activate by pressing one of the shoulder buttons and then pressing one of the face buttons. You have 4 different beta abilities they can use. But yeah, like you're doing that. You have like even more special abilities on top of that you unlock as you go through. You have a presentation and like a graphic style that is very good looking. Like
I played the demo and I think the game's gorgeous.
Yeah, like it is a very gorgeous game. I like a lot of the art direction, a lot of the art design, especially when you get to a camp and the music changes and it is this serene music and you
Take
have
a
like
chill.
Yeah, it's
Take a
very
breath.
chill. You have like the vending machine, the selenium that's there, and like
It's so near in those moments.
Yeah.
It's very near Automata in those moments.
it's very near Automata in those moments, but then you get to the boss fights and it's very like Souls-ish in its boss fights. Like it's a very different pace. I wouldn't describe it as a Souls-like whatsoever, but it has those elements to it where the boss fights are difficult, especially once you get later into the game. They get very difficult, but they're also like very well fleshed out, very well designed. You have the boss intros that make me like, oh man, this is fucking sick. Like this is really cool. I think for me, the place where the game falters is it is more refined than it is interesting. And when I say interesting, I'm referring more so of like what's going on in the story, what's going on in the world, what's going on that makes this game unique. I wouldn't describe this game as unique, really. Right?
Really?
Like it is so near all the way to a fault where the music feels so ripped out of Nier in a way that, for me, I love Nier Automata. Nier Automata is one of my favorite action RPGs. It is so near in those ways. A lot of the story and the setup and what's going on, like I don't want to talk about spoilers, so I won't get too deep into it, but a lot of it feels very near in those ways. Again, like the combat system feels like so many other action games that I played, and I think a lot of it could fall apart if it wasn't so good at emulating. Like it's this weird conflicting place that I'm at with the game.
I was going to say a 4 out of 5, you know what I mean? That's great on our scale.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's the thing of it really is refined. Like it really nails what it's going for. But there are just those things where I'm like, I think if it felt like more of its own thing, it would be such an easy 5 out of 5 to
Wow.
me, right? Like if I
Wow.
went into this, if I came out of this being like, oh damn, this is a story I've never experienced before. This is a like the character design and like the world design and all this thing feels like it stands on its own and really brought something new and novel. I think it would be above and beyond like a 5 out of 5. But there's so much of it where it feels derived from other things that it kind of pares down on the identity a bit. And I think the biggest thing that hampers it in that way is the story, honestly. Like,
Oh, really?
I didn't really get warmed up to the story until I was very late into the game. By that time, it felt too late. By that time, I'm even calling things that are happening because I'm like, okay, well, this person is going to be this person, right? And they're like I don't have any specific call outs because again, I want to
Yeah, you
avoid
wanna root for other
spoilers.
people, yeah.
But there are so many things once you get to the end of the game where it's so easy to call everything that's about to happen because I've been here before. I've played Nier, or I played Souls, or I played Devil May Cry. I know what this is driving at.
Story-wise, it seems like it's kind of one of those straight to Netflix movies, like a sci-fi Netflix movie that is maybe starring like a big star, and you're like, I don't need to watch this anytime soon, but if on a random day I'm free, I might go ahead and click play on this movie. And that's kind of the vibe that I got from it story-wise as well. I do think it's like super fascinating how we're talking about Shift Up Studios, which is a Korean developer that's never made anything in this space before. This is like their first attempt.
I believe they made like a mobile thing before.
Yeah, a super horny mobile game. A lot of jiggles. It's like a third-person shooter. But this was
Thankfully, none of that's here.
No, no move in here. No secondary
super
actions or
horny
animation
stuff here.
But I just thought it was really fascinating because it reminds me a lot of last year's Lies of P, where Round 8 Studios, another Korean developer, their first time kind of trying to make a really big leap in like, hey, here's the other stuff we've worked on before. This is like our big Souls-like or just action ARPG attempt in this sort of genre. And to have two Korean developers both jumping in and making a brand new, I just thought it was very, very like fascinating that they not only feel kind of similar to me. Like I know Sekiro gets thrown around a lot. To me, this feels like a future post-apocalyptic Lies of P.
I think that's good,
because of like so much of the parry patterns, the way they feel, along with the weapon arts in Lies of P, whatever those were called. When you use like your cool hand ability, that paired along with some of the moves in here that get really flashy and cool, and there's really cool action moves that can help make the combat feel a little bit more exciting. I'm excited for it because I wasn't necessarily expecting this mind-blowing story, but what I did play after playing that first boss in the demo and then playing the second boss that was made available to you, I was like, dude, if all of the boss fights can kind of keep up the hype here, this game's going to be something that I'm not going to want to put down because it brought the music and the hype in those moments. Do you feel like the early boss fights and the sort of excitement that those brought, do you feel like that kind of, like that experience was mirrored in a lot of the other moments that you had with the game?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think for me, the boss fights were my favorite part of this game, where early on, you have the boss fights that you've experienced in the demo, which are these kind of like just fucked up beasts that you're fighting. I think that stuff evolves in a way as you make your way through the game in ways that are really exciting, really interesting. I will say, like, the bear right now has up the Abaddon. I don't know how you pronounce this one, but the boss... A baddie. Boss fight from, was this the one in the demo?
This was this was like the first one you experienced.
Yeah.
Aside from the one that didn't really count because you were supposed to die to that one anyway.
Oh yeah. But yeah, this one like there are quite a few boss fights that emulate sort of like this style where it is again like they're called Natibas. These like fucked up beasts that you're fighting.
Yeah.
And like they're gonna say Natiba a billion times.
It's an alpha Natiba.
Yeah. But like you're fighting these alpha Natibas, and they are again these fucked up beasts that like for me, I think there was a midway point through the game where I'm like, all right, I don't know if these are doing it anymore because it is basically variations of what this guy looks like, but just in different forms. There's a turn that the game takes with his boss fights where it is, okay, now you guys have the stuff here.
Okay.
Like probably about 60-70% way through the game, you start to meet some bosses where it's, oh man, okay, y'all designed the fuck out of this boss in ways that felt exciting. There were a few bosses in there too that I would even say that like for me struck me as on the level of like a Lies of P type boss, especially when you get to like the end game.
Another similarity with Lies of P and Round 8 Studios, like this game looking as gorgeous and running as good as it does on Unreal Engine 4, being kind of like the last hurrah for Unreal Engine 4. Because I said that about Lies of P last year, and this game's also developed in UE4, and it looks great, and it runs really well, and it's got, does it still have those three sort of visual modes where it's like frame rate, balanced, and then visuals?
Yeah, they have those. I mean, I was frame rate the entire time. I tried to go the opposite route of like pure fidelity. And this is not just for this game, it's for any game.
Right.
I hate how choppy it looks when I am going like full ray trace fidelity mode. The balance one was fine. The balance one was good, but then yeah, like the whole time I was playing is doing frame rate. One thing I want to talk about from one of the things that you mentioned, coming from Shift Up, which is a studio coming out of Korea, which the last game they made was Goddess of Victory, Nikkei. And I know Nikkei is like a pretty popular IP on mobile. But yeah, between this and Liza P, and I think there are more games to come, I think that is sort of a growing market of video game development that we're seeing more games come out of. A similar thing with China, where we're seeing, I believe, Black Myth Wukong come out later this year and be another sort of action game that is taking inspiration from Souls and other just popular action games. I think that's the thing we might start seeing more and more, and I think it's fascinating because I think you're seeing between this and Liza P sort of this is what like culturally like a lot of people are into right now, right? Like not just in the West, but in Japan, in Korea, like when you're playing games, you're seeing a lot of these types of games take over. And so I think that's maybe where we're seeing like the similarities between Liza P. It is, oh yeah, no, like this is what's hot right now, especially in this area. I was talking to a friend about Stellar Blade, and he was talking about how in seeing a lot of the aspects going on in the game, like whether it be the character design or whether it be like certain pieces of writing or whatever, a lot of it feels like it can be traced back to like just cultural differences, right? Like there's been this whole culture war going on online about Stellar Blade in particular, and like the character design and the characters being hot and jiggle physics and all this stuff. And playing through the game, for the most part, like none of it was as over the top as I was expecting. I think I mentioned this during like the demo preview that we did, where I like, based on the way the internet talks about Stellar Blade, I would have thought that it was going to be just so over the top.
Well, in some
titties
ways,
in
I
your
think it's the
face.
way it was presented, right?
Sure,
I forget
yeah.
which PlayStation Showcase or whatever it was where they dropped a new thing, and you made a comment that was like, all right, don't make it like one of these games I got to try to defend. Like,
Yeah.
I want to play this game. This game looks great, but now you're starting to show this and you're honing in on the wrong things right now.
Yeah, and like it never gets to a point where I'm like, oh, this is so crazy egregious. I think the biggest thing for me that I was like, oh, I don't know about this, is that there are some outfits where you can kind of see the butt cheeks poking out, and I was like, oh, well, I don't necessarily want this on my screen the entire time while playing. But like, there's so many outfits too where I'm like, oh, I like these outfits. I like a lot of the customization options here, and it doesn't feel as over the top. I do wish that it was a bit more, again, like thoughtfully designed in terms of character design sometimes, where sometimes they look cool, but then sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like the personality radiating from this character, specifically the main character especially. I'm like, I'm not really getting much from this character in terms of personality, character, all this stuff.
Is it one of those situations you think where it's like an Aloy thing where they want you to project onto that character?
I could see that, and I could also see other explanations for it, but I'm like, man, I'm playing at this character the whole time. There are scenes where this character is meant to emote. There are scenes where this character is meant to feel something, and you're supposed to feel what's going down. And I'm like, I'm not really getting that from the performance. Like, I wish there was more there. Not the biggest hamper, because again, I'm spending most of the time in this game focused in on the action and focused in on like exploration and stuff like that. And that stuff really hits, like when it hits, right? That's the stuff that I'm really into, and it works for me. One of the things I want to shout out to is like how the structure of the game is kind of broken up a bit, where it starts off very linear, and like when you play the demo, you're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be it's gonna be like Liza P. It's gonna be like Souls, right? I'm going down these linear paths and I'm fighting through shit. There come these moments where the game opens up in ways that I just wouldn't have expected. Where I am like in an open zone, I am doing side quests. There's like a point where they're just throwing lots of side quests and side activities at you. And I was very surprised by that. And I was also like, oh, this is fucking awesome. Like the way that broke up the pace and made it feel like, okay, cool, let me hang back, maybe put on a podcast or a song and knock this shit out. I was surprised by how fun a lot of that stuff was, and how well a lot of it's designed. Like it, in the way that talking about Rise of the Ronin when we previewed that, one of the things I mentioned is that like, it coming from PlayStation Studios, it doesn't feel like a PlayStation Studios level game. Like it never felt like that level of polish and that level of prestige and budget and all that stuff, which is fine. But I felt that coming from PlayStation Studios. Stellar Blade, I think, is closer to the mark. It still doesn't feel like it's made by a Sony Santa Monica or Japan studio or whatever it is, but I think it has a sense of, again, knowing what it wants to be and doing those things well. It's the weird thing when we talk about reviews of, like I can only review it for what it is. I can't review it for what it's not, right? And like it knows what it is. Like it knows what it wants to be. It wants to be near mixed with from software elements. It wants to be a traditional action game, and it does so much of that stuff super well in ways where I'm like, listen, I can't knock it. Like I can't
Sure,
knock
if you're
it.
enjoying the experience, if it's meeting the criteria it's set out
Yeah,
to do, sure.
Like my biggest critiques are just that, like, man, I could see it being more original. I can see it maybe doing its own thing, but again, it does so much of what it's doing well that I'm like, hey, like I had a great time with it.
Did you feel a lot of agency in the way you were performing combat? Liza P gave us a lot of freedom in weapon customization.
And I would want to toss in from what I saw in the demo, right? That skill tree looks pretty progressive, like not progressive, extensive. Thank you. Where you could go a bunch of different ways with different stuff. Like, did you feel like you had it all unlocked by your credits, or did you like pick a path to go down?
It definitely is one of those skill trees where you're gonna have most of it unlocked by the time you get to the end, especially if you're doing side stuff. I think if I did all of the side stuff, I probably had the entire skill tree unlocked. By the time I finished it, I definitely had most of the skill tree unlocked. And I think when you're in the combat, you do have that sense of agency. You do have that sense of, oh, this is the style I'm gonna play. It's not to the extent of a Liza P where you have stats that you're putting into certain things and only certain kind of weapons that you want to use. It's never like that, but it's more so in the gear system that they have, where you have like the beta abilities. You have eventually you get like burst abilities.
Those like augment chipsets that kind of like
Yeah.
give you more health or faster critical time or whatever the hell. Yeah,
Yeah.
they have a bunch of little add-ons like that.
And so based on that stuff, you can really curate the way you want to play. Like for a lot of my playthrough, I had on this piece of gear that made it so that when I would perform combos that were level like 3 or level 4 combos, they do a lot more damage. And so when I would get into combat, I'm focusing and I'm trying to hit those. Or I would further into the game, I am finding all of the gear slash like skill tree abilities that are making it so that I am obtaining beta way faster. And so I'm using like the beta abilities,
Using
which
the
again,
super moves faster.
yeah, the super moves. Like I am basically just going for filling in that meter and using those as much as I can, because I found that like those beta abilities will stagger the enemies. It'll make you feel, it'll do a lot of damage. And I felt like if I focus in on that, I can get an advantage here. But yeah, from looking at the skill tree and from just playing, right, like looking through the gear, all the gear that you have in the game, there's quite a few different ways you can take it. But yeah, like I think it's basically about finding like what in the combat system feels fun for you and kind of going down that route.
Did you ever? Is there another weapon, or is that's the main blade?
That's just the main blade.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That's one thing I was wondering. Like, do you ever get a heavier type of, maybe just a small dagger at one point, or like a big heavy bludgeoning weapon? But I kind of figured that was going to be the main one based on all the visuals in any of the trailers that we saw. When you mentioned that the world opens up quite a bit near, like you said, like 60 or 70% of the way through.
Oh, it's even earlier than that.
I was wondering, like, when was that? When am I going to experience that? Because I know obviously the demo is very limited, but in the trailers, we saw a lot of moments of random NPCs being like, "Hey, I need help with whatever the hell." And I was wondering, like, I don't see
Get over here and help me stab this thing.
I was like, I don't know where I can help this New York man stab somebody. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really see where that would present itself in the game. But you're saying that there are some areas that kind of lend itself to those opportunities.
Yeah, and it happens even earlier than that. I would say probably about 30% of the way through, you hit a moment in the game where it is, all right, like go around, talk to people, go to this open world area, knock out just a bunch of side quests. Yeah, that happens around 30% of the way in, and then like it's structured in a very interesting way because you start off very linear, get to this open area, do as much of it as you want. You don't have to do any of it. Like you can just go on to the next story mission, and once you do, you're kind of locked back into that linear path for a while. Like, and it's probably like another 30% of the way through the game, and then it puts you back into, all right, shit is open up again, do what you want. And like the open areas, like the side stuff, I found to be like a nice change of pace. It's not the best side quest. In fact, a lot of the side quests remind me of Nier Automata as well, where it is like, all right, you have this open wasteland area where there's not much going on.
Get
in terms
10
of
of these,
NPCs.
get 5 of these.
Yeah, like collect a bunch of shit, or like find a little robot guy that's like stuck.
I love finding robot guys.
Yeah, and like there's quite a few little robot guys.
Is
to
it a robot
help
guy
out.
that's like similar to Adam? How Adam's like voice is in that? Your homie Adam is in the robot that's flying with you or whatever?
Like sort of similar to that. Like not the exact same kind of robot, but similar sort of idea. And so yeah, like you're doing that. And then there's like a board, like a request board that you can go down that people are like, hey, do this. There's one request that is, hey, go to this panel where like you input a password and like figure out this equation. And I was like, oh snap, okay, cool. And it is like it's one of those pattern puzzles of they'll give you 4 different numbers and you got to figure out like in the 4th number what's the pattern so you can fill in the blank.
Okay.
And I did the first one. I'm like, okay, cool, math puzzle, all right. And then I come back around another time, like once I get further in the game, and there's another request that is the same guy. It's like, all right, you figured out the first one, now figure out this one. And I looked at it, I was like, this is fucking crazy. Like this is a crazy math problem. And I ended up just typing it on Google and found somebody on Reddit asking the same one. I was like, bet. And I just took the answer and put it in. But yeah, it's like a lot of just random shit going on in like the side quests that I found, again, enjoyable. Not like the best writing in it, but
but better than rinse and repeat, I would guess, right?
Yeah.
If they're actually giving you, all right, this isn't the coolest thing, but it's better, it's different.
Was there anything that did surprise you that was unexpected? And I keep using Liza P as the example, but there were a lot of moments in there where I was expecting it to be a super straightforward experience. Walk through the levels, fight the boss, walk through the levels, fight the boss. And I was always kind of impressed by, like, should I tell the truth here in this moment? And also finding an item that is like, oh, this is a little treasure hunt. It's telling me to go back to this level and walk through this door. Oh, shit, there's another hunter there or whatever, and it, they would want to fight, or they'd have a little line of dialogue there with you. Was there anything kind of that you ran into in this game being like, oh shit, I wasn't expecting that, but that was really awesome?
I think like some of the later like story reveals had some of that where it is, oh, okay,
like optional type things?
Not really, like not
Okay.
optional. I think I could see it, maybe some of the side quests having that. If I'm clearing out all the side quests, which I didn't do, again, I did probably like 30 to 40% of them.
Okay.
But in the ones that I did, there wasn't anything that was too out there, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's like maybe a couple that are, oh yeah, there's like this really secretive thing that's going on. Like there's some boss fights that I got into during some side quests, or some like, I guess there's some discoveries that the character makes of you do a side quest and you find out that shit went wrong and you have to report that back to the person. But it usually ends with, okay, well now just go report this back to the person. It doesn't really give you an option of now chase down this thing or like do another thing. It's usually, those side quests don't usually have choices to them.
Interesting.
Indeed.
Yeah, that bums me out because anything that's optional that can blow my mind, your game gets so many extra bonus points for me because I love experiencing something that you may have been able to walk by and not even ever recognize that
And
was
it's not
there.
just a fetch quest, come back, get the XP.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I have a question about some of the stuff you were talking earlier, right? But first, I want to remind everybody about the Kind of Funny membership. With the Kind of Funny membership, of course, you could get all of our shows ad-free. You could get my Greg Way vlog each and every day, and you can watch us usually record this very podcast alongside all the other afternoon podcasts live as we record them. But guess what? You're not using your Kind of Funny membership, so here's a word from our sponsor.
Kinda Funny turns 9 years old today. We could have made it 9 days without your support. That's why 2024 is all about doubling down on our shows and making it simpler than ever for you to get the most out of our content. Our revamped Kinda Funny membership is your one-stop shop for all our amazing content, which now includes on a weekly basis the Kinda Funny podcast, In Review, the Kinda Funny Games Cast, P.S. I Love You XOXO, the Kinda Funny X-Cast, the brand new series Kinda Funny Game Showdown. 5 episodes of Kinda Funny Games Daily, and 5 exclusive Greg Way vlogs.
And 5 days of streaming fun with me and the gang here in our newly revamped streaming space. It's going to be filled with a ton of laughter and a whole lot of shenanigans. We'll see you there.
That's more than 20 pieces of content a week from an 11-person independent team in San Francisco. That's a lot. And to get the most out of it, all we're asking for is $10. $10 gets you the Kinda Funny membership, and that entitles you to ad-free versions of the shows, the ability to watch the podcast live as we record them, and the exclusive access to my daily show, Greg Way. You can get your Kinda Funny membership on patreon.com/kindafunny or youtube.com/kindafunnygames. Yes, we are expanding our Kinda Funny membership offering to YouTube so people can take full advantage of the platform they prefer. If you want to go above and beyond the Kinda Funny membership to support us, we will still have higher Patreon tiers, albeit with some changed up perks. We just wanted to make the message as clear as possible that the $10 Kinda Funny membership is for the masses to get all of the core content people love. Everything above that is very appreciated. The support means the world to us. You all are the best. But the $10 Kinda Funny membership available on both patreon.com/kindafunny and youtube.com/kindafunnygames is where we see the value of what we do. Kinda Funny is a dream come true, and we wouldn't have it without you. We hope if you've ever enjoyed the content, you can support us for at least a month as we prepare for our biggest year ever. Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.
The sponsor is also the Kinda Funny membership. They can't escape it. You know what I mean?
can't.
That means we can say bad words afterwards. Fuck.
Bless.
Greg.
You talked about cultural differences when you were talking about this game. You talked about the jiggles and the internet and the reactions to it and everything. You said it wasn't anything outrageous or whatever on that front or whatever, but there's things both of you have found in this game that during the review period, well, you were during demo period, I guess.
This was,
right?
yeah, I was streaming this and I just kind of noticed it and didn't think anything of it. Haha, little funny, silly joke. Seems intentional.
Yeah.
But then I guess what Blessing saw made me think like, oh, well, maybe the thing Blessing saw it was actually intentional.
So start with the less egregious. Andy, what
Okay.
did you find in this game?
Well, you know, it's no secret that a lot of game developers will put in little Easter eggs and just little funny goofs in the world. And when you're walking around, there's a sign in the distance that spells, it looks like a sign that's kind of been broken down and is maybe missing a couple letters, but it spells out boob or booby, which, whatever, that's silly.
Yeah.
It looks like there's a missing letter in the middle, but that seems kind of intentional. And I just thought that was kind of funny.
I mean, they know the game they're making. They know the suit you're wearing right now.
Yeah. And so I didn't think much of it. I just thought it was kind of silly. And then I saw Blessing post something in our Slack, and I was like, oh, maybe I was kind of onto something with just the little booby thing.
Yeah. So the thing I came across, this is when you get to like more of the open area, but this is an area. This is like a segment of the game that mostly everybody is going to discover. On the wall, they have like graffiti, and then they have a sign that's like pointing to the request shop, and the graffiti on the wall says hard, and the sign right next to it says R. And so like we look at it, it very obviously says hard R. And I saw that and I screenshotted it. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, why the fuck is this in the game? But yeah, I sent it to the Slack and I was like, at first I was like, am I the crazy one? And then I saw the Slack responses and I'm like, okay, thank God I'm not the crazy one. Like everybody else is saying this. But it was one of those ones where for me, it was two things, right? One, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to keep an eye out now for like any other sort of thing like this in the game.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find anything aside from what Andy was talking about with the booby thing. But I also did see like a lot of other hard graffiti. But like not no R's next to it, right? It's like hard graffiti just thrown all over the place. And so
You mean like that same image?
that same image, yeah.
Okay.
That same like asset. And so it's one of those things where I don't know what to make of it because I think it could be a number of things. I think one, it could be one of the devs in the building is like having fun and they're like, oh, let me put a gag in here. But it was like not, it was one of those ones where I think usually would be hidden and just is not hidden whatsoever. And so you see it and you're like, what the fuck is going on here? It could be it's hard to make an accusation based on it, like, I don't have any concrete proof of this, but what if it's AI, right? Like, is this a thing where they're like
procedural sort of thing?
Yeah, like it's a procedural thing where nobody noticed this or this is a thing that was created by itself. 3, like we had the news story a few weeks ago about Deck 9 and how like there was back and forth in the studio about like people putting in racist dog whistles and shit that, right? Like, is it one of those? But I also know like this is a game developed at Shift Up, which is a Korean studio. Like culturally, I don't know if there are people that are like, oh yeah, like that's fun. It's like I don't think that matches up. So it's that weird thing where you don't know what to make of it.
Do these Korean game devs, are they even aware of hard R being a thing? You know, like that's
is this a localization thing?
Yeah,
where there's somebody on
yeah.
the localization team.
And back
that's
to
like,
your
oh,
point
this would be
too,
funny.
and not to give anybody like too much credit here, or, room for mistakes or whatever. But if it is just that the hard graffiti is up all over the place, at some point I'm sure as a dev it becomes white noise.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about procedural, right? It's just like, okay, it's up. And I'm assuming the R shop, that logo is often used in the game as well.
That's the only time that logo's there.
interesting.
Yeah.
Well.
Like that's the only spot that you have that shop at.
Yeah, the for audio listeners, the letter R in this case is like the only letter left up from a sign that probably existed there, where like the R is, it's hardware. It's like a neon sort of little structure on the wall, and it looks like maybe there was other letters there making a word that ends with the word R, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
So it's a really weird one. I was talking to some other people that were reviewing the game, and like they had reached out to PlayStation, and the word is that it's being removed by the time the game comes out for everybody. Like they're taking it out. But yeah, it's a very bizarre one where it's like, what the fuck?
I don't know what to make of this. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be one thing, right? But like it'd be one thing if it was a hidden thing, where I had found it like under a table in the game or some shit. It's like oh, this is very much not meant to be seen, and you find it and you're like, all right, who the fuck did this? But it is displayed. Like it is a spot that you go to in the game that 99% of people playing this game would have passed by that spot. And I'm surprised that nobody caught that on the team, or nobody had something to say on it. Again, like maybe it's a localization team thing. But yeah, I thought that was
good
really
to know
weird.
that there wasn't more, because again, just watching Slack and seeing Andy's thing and this thing, it's like, oh, is this going to be a game with has a bunch of weird shit packed into the back walls there, or they're making some weird statements?
Yeah.
It seems like
And
that's
it's-
not the case.
Yeah, and it's weird when it's on top of, again, the already weird place that this game is in. When you look at the internet and people are fighting about, oh man, but like protagonist is hot and jiggle physics and all this stuff, right? Like it's already finding itself in those conversations in ways that I think in a lot of ways are unfair. In some ways I can see how it gets looped in those conversations. But yeah, I think that's going to be another one that's put on the pile of like, oh yeah, let's get into to fights about like what this game means for us, or like what kind of game it wants to be and all this shit. But yeah, like I didn't find anything else like that in the game. I found a lot of the hard graffiti, which every single time I saw the hard graffiti, I was like, dude, if that was an accident, it's actually really funny seeing a lot more hard graffiti, because it feels like y'all are just putting this everywhere.
Same graffiti artist just going everywhere. He's like, it's my only trick. It's all-
I
Die
can do
hard,
hard.
man.
I can do hard really well.
Yeah.
Not even different colors.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of graffiti though, there's also a lot of yellow paint. I know people like the yellow paint discourse. There's a lot of yellow paint in this
Yeah.
game, but it's not bad. It's like
For where to grab.
for like, where to grab, where to go, all that shit. If you're someone that's annoyed by yellow paint, there's a lot of that here. You shouldn't be annoyed by it, but
I feel like
it's there.
that's more of a drummed up internet comment
Yeah.
than anything else. And I don't know many people. Oh, fucking goddamn yellow
Remember
paint.
games in
Yellow
my
paint.
days never needed
Yeah,
that.
exactly. So Andy, everything Blessed is saying works for you. You're gonna invest in Stellar Blade.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, especially after, I think the demo was such a great encapsulation of what the game can be, and I'm super into that vibe. And I think mainly knowing that I wasn't expecting to be blown away story-wise anyway.
Yeah.
But I just really loved the hype and excitement that those boss fights brought. Kind of reminded me of like why I loved playing Final Fantasy 16 so much. It was like, not only was I super into those characters in the world, but the way that the music kind of swells in certain moments when you hit the third phase of the boss or whatever. I'm just super into that sort of like feeling, and feeling that adrenaline pumping when you have one, little tick of life left, and so does the boss. I enjoy those moments quite a bit. I'm super into it. I'm stoked. I'm ready for it.
Bless, you talked about the things it's trying to emulate so much. And so to wrap this conversation up, talking about a Lies of P or a Nier, do you think it's going to find that kind of audience? Like both of those games, I mean, I don't even say cult classics, right? Like Nier is beloved by that audience. And even Lies of P, smaller, I would say, than Nier, right? But also beloved.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to hit on the same levels. Like Lies of P, I gave a 5 out of 5. Nier Automata, if it came out today, I would give it a 6 out of 5. I think Nier Automata is such an excellent game. I think this is one that's going to hit with the people that liked those, but maybe not necessarily be on the same pedestal as those.
Okay.
Like I think this is the ultimate fans of the genre type game.
Got
where
it.
I don't know if
Got it. Ooh, wow, that's a good way
I don't
to
know if
put
I
it.
would recommend this game to. I don't know, Greg, if you're going to be somebody who's like, fucking, let me get in there and play
I
some
played the
Stellar Blade.
demo. I respected what it was, but I was like, I don't want to play more of this.
Yeah. But like for me, again, I really enjoyed my time with this game, being somebody who already enjoys Nier, being somebody who already enjoys Lies of P. Like if you're somebody in that camp and you're looking for another one of those, I think this is a perfect candidate. I think this is one that people are going to like a lot. I think this is one that people are going to talk about for a little bit, for how fun it is and how good the boss fights are. And I think it's going to find communities within those communities. I don't know if it's going to have breakout success. I'm curious to see if they make another one, if maybe Stellar Blade 2 is the one that does that.
Gotcha.
But I think, this one I would describe as, the ultimate. If you're a fan of action RPGs, you're going to like this, especially like the action-y side of action RPGs.
Yeah, action game side of it.
Yeah.
Okay, great, Blessing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Good job.
Pleasure having you. I'm always happy to have you here. It's time for This Week in PlayStation, and usually I let you lead it off, Bless, but you've been talking nonstop, so I'll toss out this one, especially because we have Andy here. Someone who's crossed party lines. Andy, of course, a filthy PC gamer.
Mm-hmm.
He's tried to steal Blessing several times. We
I
won't
love
talk
PCs.
about how successful it's been. We won't talk about how successful it's been. I want to know,
With a
Andy,
tear rolling down your cheek.
does Sony's new PlayStation PC overlay with shared trophies make you care any more about trophies? This is Tom Warren at The Verge. I'm just grabbing 2 paragraphs. Sony is introducing a new PlayStation PC overlay and shared trophies with its upcoming release of Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut on May 16th. It's the first PlayStation game for PC that uses Sony's new PlayStation overlay, which, much like the Steam overlay, will provide access to your friend list, trophies, settings, and your PlayStation account. To get access to the trophies, friends list, and all that stuff, you have to sign in, of course, with your PlayStation Network credentials. It's optional, which Tom writes is good news if you're tired of too many overlays. Andy,
Hey, Greg.
are you going to log into your PSN at all, you think?
For Ghost, yeah, I
Yeah?
would say so. I think one thing that I'm discovering about myself in terms of the trophy enjoyment and engagement
Yeah, you're speaking my language, yeah.
is that like I'm never going to be hunting these things down. But one of the main reasons why I enjoy popping a trophy or like a Steam achievement or an Xbox achievement is feeling the authorship of the developer behind it and feeling like, oh, they see this as something important. They saw whatever I just did as a reason to reward me. And recently I was playing a game that I can't mention, but I popped an achievement for like, I think, no, you know what it was? Oh, I know what it was. It was Kill It With Fire 2, game
Okay.
that I'm a voice in it. 2 voices. Thank you, everybody. There's a little
It's
silly
high-pitched Andy and down-pitched Andy.
there's a little silly part of the game where you're being explained sort of the rules, and you have to like sign this like really, really long agreement, and you could just skip and sign the contract, or you can read the terms. And I wanted to read all the terms because a buddy of mine made the game, Casey Donnellan, and I was like, oh, let me just read through the Xavier Nelson was also one of the writers and voices on it.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm like reading through all the terms, and I get to all of these 8 pages of terms, and it's all like just very contractual malarkey, you know?
Yeah.
And I get to the end of it, and I was like,
Good use of malarkey.
malarkey? I can't do a Joe Biden. Anyway, I see a little achievement pop up, and it's like, you read all the terms and conditions. I was
That's
like,
cool,
oh,
that's
that's
cool.
kind of neat.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I like feeling the developer's intentions behind whatever I achieve. I'm never really hunting these things out, but for Ghost, I feel like a lot of those I experienced anyway on PlayStation. But yeah, I'm gonna want to try this out just to see how it looks and how the UI operates. I love whenever there's a new update to UI, whenever there's a brand new sort of visual thing that I can kind of enjoy and see how the menus look and stuff. Like, I'm such a nerd for that shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna pop this stuff. Am I gonna care about the second time when this is whenever there's the next game comes out with this PlayStation overlay thing? Probably not, but I'm gonna be curious enough to check it out the first time.
See, that's where it gets interesting. Where, of course, I have limited free time to begin with these days. But when they keep doing this with future PlayStation stuff, when they start putting out Spider-Man 2 with this, it's like, well, why wouldn't I want to play Spider-Man 2 again and get another platinum trophy? You know what I mean? Like, why
There's
wouldn't
not
I
gonna be
wanna
another
run
one,
through-
right?
This would be a new SKU. Yeah, I think you'd have to.
This is a conversation we're having on KFG when this broke. Is I think you're just gonna earn your PS5 trophies, aren't you? Like, are they gonna make PC specific trophies?
I think it would be a new trophy list. So I think that's how it would be. It's not that they're going to make new
I'll bring
trophies.
up
It would
the
just be a
wording.
new SKU.
Yeah, because there was wording in there that was like shared PS or not shared.
No,
It-
I think what we discovered was that what I
is
had
that with
learned.
you?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
it was
snap.
you and I on that show. Yeah. I think we discovered that they were all different trophy lists, were they not?
While playing the game, you can earn PlayStation trophies just like on PlayStation consoles, period. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut on PC shares the same trophy set as the game on PlayStation 5 consoles. There's an asterisk. What does the asterisk say?
Asterisk.
Users who connect their existing account for PlayStation Network and unlock trophies on Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut using the same account on PS5 will have the same trophies unlocked on the PC version.
So this is totally fucking worthless and garbage to me. Fuck off.
Damn.
This is exactly what we talked about.
Wasn't even worth
I was
it.
like, this is
I
gonna
was
piss
right.
him off.
Wasn't even fucking
right.
worth it, PC
Really, this is gonna
players.
piss him off, and it has.
Get
It's
the
so
fuck
funny.
out of here. I hate this.
I love that you immediately jumped to, oh yeah, I'm gonna earn an entirely new set of trophies.
Well, they put another one in
Of
there.
course he would,
It's like,
yeah.
it's like when I get a PS5 version and a PS4 version.
Oh man,
now there's a PC version.
This sucks because like in an ideal world, we didn't read any of that right there. We didn't like clarify anything. I know Blessing and I already clarified it, but that information is from last week. Blessing, I've forgotten all of that. In an ideal world, I'm like, all right, Tim, give Greg your ultra wide OLED for the weekend. Play on PC. Greg, borrow my PC. I have a 4090 Core i9-13 series. Oh man, I would have just loved for you to like just experience
I
that.
bring back a cardboard box with a PlayStation 5 inside it.
Here you go.
There you go. Just it works fine. Blessing, talk to me what's coming out this week on PlayStation.
Yeah, the drop looks like this. You got Ayuden Chronicles 100 Heroes for PS5. You got a Hammerwatch 2 coming out for PS4 April 23rd. You have Lunar Lander Beyond. You have Tales of Kenzera Zal coming out for PS5. You got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Arcade Wrath of the Mutants for PS5 and PS4. You got Fallout 4 coming to PS5. Is that true? Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the next gen update drops this week.
In 2 days?
Ooh.
Yep.
Oh, snap. You got Library of Ruina for PS4, Saga Emerald Beyond for PS5, PS4, Sandland for PS5, PS4, Stellar Blade for PS5, and you got another Crab's Treasure coming out on April 25th. What'd you pick to play on PlayStation?
A lot of those games, ladies and gentlemen, and guess what? A lot of them are embargoed. Some aren't, some are, but we're doing a very special games cast coming up in just a few hours after this PS I Love You XOXO posts, where we're going to run through a whole bunch of reviews and thoughts on games that we've been playing. So you need to stay tuned for that. Of course, the games cast will be up on its podcast feeds and, of course, youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. Andy,
Hey,
thank you for joining us today.
thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Anytime. I like how you matched your sweatshirt to your computer.
Oh
This
yeah.
kid's got style.
Oh, look at
and
that.
your water bottle. Shit, fuck.
Wow.
Damn.
We should get you, we should
You're
get
the
you blue
blue guy,
contacts.
kind of funny. You nailed it.
Thank you. What'd you say, Greg?
We should get you blue contacts too.
Oh man, you can't put those in my eyeballs.
Yeah, I can't
I'll
get
kick
blue
you away.
contacts either. Yeah.
I'm the same way. No, I can't lay anything in my eyes.
My parents would try to put little
Eye drops?
like eye drops in my eyes. I was a baby.
All
and
I
I
was
would
blink.
I
Yeah.
was crying. I was just kicking.
I do that as an adult.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of PS I Love You XOXO, your PlayStation conversation. Thank you so much. Remember, each and every week you can get a new one from us. YouTube.com/kindoffunnygames. Podcast services around the globe. If you liked this one, head over and get that Kind of Funny membership, either on YouTube or Patreon, to get each and every episode ad-free. Usually watch us record them live. And of course, get my daily vlog series, Greg Way, each and every weekday. Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.